Birth certificates. The United States has always been based on canon law, ECCLESIASTICAL, law by papal announcements, which is another way of saying operational policy, the King James biblical law. Since King James had the Bible written in the worldview using God terms, it was easily converted back to the worldly terms, which aka Universal Commercial Code, that is in charge of our birth certificates and marriage certificates. So in 1666, CESTUIQUEVIE Act that they had in Parliament behind closed doors, it took away the rights of people who declared them dead. The state of London took custody of everyone and their property into trust, which means the state can hold all titles to the people and property until a living man comes to reclaim the titles. The city of London is an independent city-state, just like Washington, D.C. is, and just like the Vatican is. That's why you always need representation when involved in legal matters, because you're supposedly dead. Okay. The dollar value of you began July 14, 1862, when President Lincoln offered 6% interest-bearing bonds to states who freed slaves on per-head basis. So in August 1892, uniformity law began, is where you took the canon law from written in the worldview, but back to the God view, and turned it totally into the worldly law to make it seem like church and state were separated. The United States did not get standardized system until 1902, and then in 1919, all states had birth records. Warren G. Harding, at November 23, 1921, signed the Shepherd-Tower Act that provided federal funding for maternity and child care. This was the first part of Social Security. That's why you were required to have a Social Security card in order to work, which is another thing that was done, but I'm going to focus on birth certificates right now. Doctors who were franchised with the state are obligated to sign the birth certificate, forward to the Secretary of State, then make certified copies, then send the original to the Department of Commerce in Washington, D.C., then they made certified copies and then forwarded to the International Monetary Fund in Brussels, Belgium. This is where we are owned. It matures on your 18th birthday, and the equity ends up being regarded as performance units on international debt, which is a UNCONSCIOUNABLE contract. You had no choice in the matter, which makes it fraud. So in 1930, the standardized version of the birth certificate happened. So they had an Emergency Banking Act, March 9th, 1933, right after that. It's where the United States declared bankruptcy under President Roosevelt. The governors of the state, 48 governors of states, pledged the full faith credit of their states, including the century, as collateral for loans of credit from the Federal Reserve System, to wit, full faith and credit clause of the Constitution, U.S. Article 4, Section 1. United States started issuing serial number certificate receipts for birth and marriages, which pledged the people as collateral against loans and municipal bonds taken out with the Federal Reserve banks. Full faith credit of people, which backs the nation's debt. So when you get hired at a company, there's a human resources department, which you're required to have a Social Security number and an ID. So in 1942, the National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws aka Uniform Law Commission, and the American Law Institute came up with a recommendation of laws that should be adopted in the states, which is just canon law. That's it.